We knew the books were coming. We knew the people who worked inside the Biden White House were going to make their money, get their big payday, cash those checks, and tell all about what happened behind the scenes. But I got to tell you, even I wasn't expecting this level of betrayal, this level of slimy, backstabbing, ungrateful, cover your ass behavior. But I shouldn't be surprised because it comes from the biggest liar of them all, the one that lied to your face every day, Karine Jean-Pierre. That's right. That cute little raggedy mop top of hers. She landed herself a big, big publishing deal. Get a load of the cover art. First, it looks like AI did this. Hire an artist, will you? And the title, Independent? What the hell is it about her that is in any way whatsoever independent? She literally read a script every day. She showed no independence. She lied through her teeth to cover the worst presidency of our lifetime. A look inside a broken White House, outside the party lines. What do you mean outside the party lines? But yeah, apparently that's the big takeaway. Karine Jean-Pierre announces in the publicity for her book that comes out in October that she's leaving the Democrat Party. She's an independent now. Who cares? She tells her story of feeling disillusioned with Democrat politics after serving in 2 Democrat administrations and calls for thinking outside the party lines. Wasn't she a loyal soldier right up until the last day of the administration? She kept cashing those checks. I mean, if she felt so disillusioned, why didn't she leave on her own? I'll tell you why. She would have never gotten this publishing deal. That's why. The first Black woman and openly gay White House press secretary says the Americans need to save the country by freeing ourselves of boxes. Yeah, I think we should take her advice on politics, shouldn't we? Oh, please, Karine Jean-Pierre, show us the way to repair our nation, said absolutely no one living on this planet. Additionally, she highlights the importance of dismantling the torrent of disinformation and misinformation. I'm sorry, wait, we're going to be lectured to by Karine Jean-Pierre about disinformation and misinformation from Karine Jean-Pierre? This is like being lectured to about good journalism by Jake Tapper. Let's take a look at how the AP describes this book. Former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has a book out this fall that promises a close look at President Biden's decision not to run for re-election and calls for thinking beyond the two-party system. Let me just tell you something. Karine Jean-Pierre was probably the very last person in that White House to know that Joe Biden wasn't going to be running for re-election and he was pulling himself out of the race. In fact, she was probably the last person right after Joe Biden himself found out about it. Famously, she barely even had any face-to-face meetings with POTUS. She was told what to say by whoever it was that was pulling the strings, probably Anita Dunn or Ron Klain or Jill or Hunter. She did her job. She doesn't have any inside information. Jean-Pierre herself has switched her affiliation to independent after working in 2 Democrat administrations, according to Legacy Lit, a Hatchet book group imprint that will publish Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside party lines, October 21st. Circle that date and make sure you buy something else. Maybe I should have my next book come out on October 21st so you have an alternative. Until January 20th, I was responsible for speaking on behalf of the President of the United States, Jean-Pierre, the first Black woman and openly gay person to hold the position of White House press secretary, said in a statement released Wednesday. At noon on that day, I became a private citizen who, like all Americans and many of our allies around the world, had to contend with what was to come next for our country. You know, we did a lot of contending for what was happening right then and there in our country when you were cashing your big fat White House paycheck, Karine Jean-Pierre. Trust me, we had a lot more to contend with when your guy was in charge than we have for the last 130 days. I determined that the danger we face as a country requires freeing ourselves of boxes. We need to be willing to exercise the ability to think creatively and plan strategically. Isn't that clever? In other words, if I may, the Democrat brand is so forever broken and damaged by her and her boss, both bosses she worked for, by the way, Obama and Biden. It is so destroyed by their devastating policies in the border, in law enforcement, in taxes and spending, and bogus green energy boondoggles. Not to mention the divisive messaging that came from her podium on a daily basis about how you, because you think differently, are actually a threat to the Constitution and to the very order in our nation. She has so contributed to the destruction of the Democrat brand that even she is jumping ship. We can't fix it. We can't fix it. We've broken it so bad that we'll just rebrand ourselves with something new. I'm going to be independent. What a backstabbing little bitch. Jean-Pierre, 50. She's 50? Succeeded Jen Psaki as press secretary in 2022 after previously serving as deputy press secretary and also working as senior advisor during Biden's victorious 2020 campaign. During Obama's first term, she was a regional political director. Jean-Pierre was criticized at times for being evasive about Biden's physical condition. Oh, was she evasive? Is that what she was? Evasive? No, she was a flat-out liar. How does a book publisher publish a book, a tell-all, from a known liar? Who wants to buy a book from a known liar under the guise that now we're going to learn the truth? I mean, again, this is the Jake Tapper phenomenon. Jake Tapper's ratings, by the way, last I checked, down 30% from when his book came out. Because it's a funny thing about the American people. When you write a book telling us what a liar you used to be, we're not going to tune in every night to have you tell us the news. Now, with Karine Jean-Pierre, it's in the reverse. We got to see you every day, lie to us, and now you want us to buy a book to explain to us what was going on behind the scenes while you lied to us? Why should we believe any of this? We shouldn't. We shouldn't. Jean-Pierre was criticized at the time for being evasive about Biden's physical condition. Wednesday's announcement from Legacy Lit says that she will take readers through the 3 weeks that led to Biden's abandoning his bid for a second term and the betrayal of the Democratic Party that led to his decision. She presents clear arguments and provocative evidence as an insider about the importance of dismantling the torrent of disinformation and misinformation that has been rampant in recent elections. It provides passionate insight for moving forward, the announcement said. Well, I'll give her this. If you're looking for an expert on misinformation and disinformation in politics, I guess you're going to want to get someone like Karine Jean-Pierre. Absolutely unbelievable. Let's move on, shall we, to a compilation that our friend Maze over on X has put together for us to sort of shine a light on the kind of ordeal we had to live through with Karine Jean-Pierre as we explore the opportunity to purchase a book from this woman where she tells us what was really going on when, I don't know, last I checked, that was actually what she was paid to do at the time. You know, she lied to you when her job was actually to tell you what was happening at the White House. But now, if you pony up $40 for her book, now you'll really learn the truth, even though you've already paid her salary for several years. Let's remind ourselves how she is, in fact, an expert on misinformation and disinformation.
It would be wrong to think that the border is open. It is not open.
We're been down to the border. The possible next speaker says that he wants him to go with him. So is he going to?
So look, he's been there. He's been to the border. And since he took office.
When did he go to the border?
But that's not how it works. Like we actually, no.
I know that that's not what you guys want to happen, but that is what has happened.
But that's not, it's not like somebody walks over and that's not how
Exactly what's happening.
well,
Thousands of people are walking in a day. Some of them turn themselves over. Some of them are caught. Tens of thousands a week are not. That is what is happening.
it is not that simple. It's not just that people are walking across the border. They want to secure the border. We've been doing that work on our own. The president has done the work to deal with what we're seeing at the border since day one. Because when you look at inflation, when we look at where we are economically, and we are in a strong, we are stronger economically than we have been in history. What we saw on January 6th was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. And you should subscribe to Maze on X. It's a great account. I subscribe to it. You should too. That was fabulous. Seriously, she's 50? I mean, it's impressive. I was taking a moment while that was playing to take a look at our live chat, and I suspect those of you who are watching this full episode after our live stream, you may be engaging in the same activities. Let me encourage it. Independent, obviously, is a terrible name for this book. It doesn't at all describe Karine Jean-Pierre's tenure as the Minister of Disinformation for the Biden White House. So I think you should come up with your own title. What do you think the best title for Karine Jean-Pierre's book should be? Submit your alternate titles, please, in the space below. Meanwhile, and I do love Maze, and I think he does great work on X, but I got to say, he left out my favorite lie. He left out the most important lie of Karine Jean-Pierre's time at the White House, and I can't wait to read how she addresses this moment in her book. Because at a time when this program in particular, in June of 2024, spent many episodes showing you videos of Joe Biden at the D-Day observance in France, at the G8 summit in Italy, at the Juneteenth concert on the White House lawn, and of course, the George Clooney fundraiser in Los Angeles, as we saw him wandering aimlessly, squatting as though he was pinching a loaf in his Depends, staring blankly into space where Barack Obama had to reach him, grab him by the hand, and lead him off the stage. We were showing you what was obviously occurring before our very eyes. We saw it, we knew what we saw, and we knew exactly what it meant, that Joe Biden had mashed potatoes for brains, and he was incapable of being president, let alone running for another term. And after 3 weeks of those videos, just a couple of days before that fateful debate with Donald Trump in June, she was asked about these videos by an AP reporter. And this was what Karine Jean-Pierre said that day. This is why it's my favorite lie. This is also why it's the most damnable lie that she told. And that's saying something, because she didn't just lie about all of the videos and everything you saw with your own very eyes, but then she immediately accused all of us, accused me, accused you of lying, distorting, and manipulating these videos to make it appear as though what was obvious to everyone wasn't actually occurring. Take a look at this most damnable lie from this backstabbing, conniving, deceitful, sorry excuse for a woman.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period. And to their credit, we have a conservative Washington Examiner did call them out as well, calling out the New York Post. Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attacked the president for thanking troops. For thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy, this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here.
Those were lies. They were all lies. They were damnable lies. And with all due respect to the good people at the Washington Examiner, the fact that they were quoted by Karine Jean-Pierre to reinforce and bolster that despicable lie about cheap fake videos, I'll only say that it's another reason why you should continue your patronage of the Townhall media sites, because you need to be a discerning critic and discerning reader of content out on the internet. Obviously, the name of Karine Jean-Pierre's book, in my opinion, needs to be just that: Cheap Fakes by Karine Jean-Pierre, because yeah, she's an expert. Here she is, by the way, announcing the book today. She's so excited.
Hi, I'm Karine Jean-Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it. And the reason I wrote this book, coming out of the White House, serving as White House press secretary was an honor and a privilege. But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect our democracy? How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next? Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this is my answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And that's what I've done. And that's what this book does. And here's the truth. And here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan. And the way that I see moving forward in this space that we're in right now is, if you are willing to stand side by side with me, regardless of your how you identify politically, and as long as you respect the community that I belong to and vulnerable communities that I respect, I will be there with you. I will move forward with you. And that is, I think, so important. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance. And how do we move forward together in a compassionate way, in a way that really, truly cares about people? October 21st.
This woman, as she has been her entire public career, is lying to you, and she is absolutely full of and you know it. I know it. We all know it. She knows it even, in fact. But she's going to try to get away with this. I'll repeat what I said before. How are we going to move forward? We have to stop thinking in terms of party. We have to stop thinking in terms of boxes, because she and the two men that she worked for, Joe Biden and Barack Obama, have actually destroyed the Democrat brand. Nobody wants to align themselves with that party anymore, based on the lies that they've told, based on the deceit that they promulgated, and frankly, based on the continuing degradation of issues that most of us can agree on. All the so-called 80-20 issues, like the border and law and order, and since she raised the issue, as long as you respect the communities that I belong to and respect the communities that I love. Karine Jean-Pierre, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you at your word, ma'am. Let me ask you the same question I ask of anyone who's trying to make a name in politics right now that come from your side of the political aisle. You answer this question honestly to me, to my satisfaction, and I'll absolutely buy your book. Karine, here's the question. Can a man be pregnant? Can a man get pregnant? You answer that question honestly, and I'll believe you. But I don't think you can. And until you figure out why you can't answer that question honestly, truthfully, and factually, you are lost. And you can rebrand yourself. You can get out of a box. You can say that you're not a Democrat. You can say that we should have think outside party lines. But it has nothing to do with your messaging. It has nothing to do with your outfits. It has nothing to do with your hairdo. And it has nothing to do with your boxes and your party identification. It has to do with what you believe and all of the radicals that you have to appeal to. All of that being said, ultimately, this is the greatest single example of betrayal, backstabbing, and vindictiveness that I think I've ever seen in a town that is known for such behavior. For Karine Jean-Pierre to continue to cash those checks every day and salute smartly for the Biden family all the way up to the last day of the presidency, and now put this out so she can cash in and tell the secrets. Because the only reason anybody wants this book is to learn all the secrets, all the dirt, and she'll tell you because she wants to get paid. She wants to buy that beach house. And that's despicable. Ooh, maybe that's a good title for the book. Karine Jean-Pierre, Despicable.